Hey guys, thanks for coming. Today we got Sunil Thankamushy, who's worked on Medal of Honor as the animation director, left EA to start Spark, and was the animation director there on Tour of Duty and a number of other projects.
Call of Duty, the console version of Call of Duty, the very first one.
And a couple other projects. And he's actually now working with Spark and another company that he started that's kind of an incubation project from Spark, and he's going to talk to us about how to survive or how to break into the game industry. So, without further ado, Sunil.
How are you guys doing?
Very
good. Welcome to the show. So, this is what I've done. So, 1993 to 2009. 93 to 96. Here's where I was a student at UCLA. I had a master's degree in animation. Just fast forwarding super fast, so you'll get a good picture of a representation of a journey. In 2006, I joined DreamWorks Interactive. Then at EA, in 2002, we left DreamWorks Interactive. We left EA to form Spark. I'm going to put a bar here because DreamWorks Interactive turned into Electronic Arts. Yes. Spark was formed at that point, and then 2008, I left Spark to form Deep Blue Worlds, Inc. So here I did Medal of Honor, Jurassic Park, I'll call it JFE, and a bunch of Medal of Honors basically. And then at Spark we made Call of Duty Finest Hour and Turning Point and Legendary. And after that, I left all that to form Deep Blue. Throughout all this, the whole thing, I was basically in charge of animation, and I was very fortunate to actually have been promoted to be a lead animator for that project that became Medal of Honor. And so I've been an animation director all my career. So 2 years ago when I found Deep Blue, it was another big shift. This was to basically to see an entire project, to see a company succeed. So before anything else, I'd like to give you a general. I'm going to show you a game reel that I just put together. It's all really fast, slapped together really fast. It just gives you a picture of the rhythms of the games industry. I think if you guys were here for my last talk at some point, that might be a repeat. But before that, I'd like to show you the games I worked on for context. This is the first one.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
It depends on what you mean by you love the game. This was a fun game that to have worked on. I animated most of a lot of the dinosaurs in this. It gave me a really strong feeling of more like action, and how to breathe life into large life forms, basically. But as a game, I'd like to say that this is the game that we hated the players. But it taught me a lot. You know, one of the things you learn working in the games or any industry is, or rather 90% of what you learn is how not to do things. And if you're very lucky, you have a lot of peers or bosses who teach you how not to do things. And that's a good thing as well. And as long as you are very keen or you're very attuned to knowing what mistakes are, you don't want to make their mistakes. You know, but that taught me a lot. But after that, it was fantastic. This was the best time of my life, actually. I was the first animator for this, and I was also the animation director for this. So this started the Medal of Honor, the whole thing, and it was great. Actually, Spielberg came to us and said, "Hey, I got an idea for a game." He pulled 4 or 5 people together into a room, and he just, in half an hour, he just highlighted all the things he wanted to see in that game, including the whole concept of, okay, we're going to this against the Nazis. Remember, at that time, there was just one game famous, was the Wolfenstein game, basically. But he laid out all the basic specs, what it's about. It should be about honor, it should have authenticity, it should not just be any other shoot 'em up game. We should respect the people who actually did the real thing. So it's amazing what an impact such a grounding gives you, because when it comes from someone like Steven Spielberg, but the reason I say that is things you learn early on, if it's done right, it'll have such a gigantic impact that that theme will follow for a lot of projects. Because every single thing we did, every single Medal of Honor we did, was based off that, and that transferred into Call of Duty as well. The reason why Call of Duty is such an incredibly successful franchise, and how much it transports you and immerses you, is because of one person ingraining some basic concepts way in 1997, and that's an amazing. That's what I learned from that whole experience. So this was Medal of Honor franchise. Then we left Spark to form. We left DreamWorks to. We left DreamWorks to create something to beat Medal of Honor. That turned out to be the Call of Duty franchise. But I just worked on the very first the console version of it. I was animation director for this. Then I was the animation director for Turning Point. It's okay as a game. Okay. So this reel is to give you a general idea of. It's not polished. Okay? It's just a rough and dirty version of stuff. So it's not. It's the effort of a lot of people. And what you're seeing is stuff from the game engine, and it chugs because we have not optimized the game engine at that time. This is something that turned into a game called Legendary much later. Nice. Okay. Santosh, we have sound, right?
Yeah, it should be on.
Before we get... Oh, hell. Incoming Griffins!
The Griffins in the game, that is all AI.
Cover! Everyone to cover!
These are all temp sounds, you know? It's producer bunch of us doing the making sounds. What's that? No, well, I'm going to show one more thing. This is a reel I just put together recently. It's a bunch of my own personal stuff, work that I've done for most of these games. It's not a...
Extra, extra! Yeah, no, please, yes! Oh, yes! No, stop! Please, Hey, younger.
Into the worlds of Wizard 101, where a wizard's home is his castle.
Cool. Okay. And now back to the show. You can have the lights back on. So the purpose of this talk is just to basically to give you an idea about this. It's a thing you evolve into basically. It is I have seen in this span. I'm sure many of you were not even born at that time, right?
Oh no.
No, I don't believe you were more than 10 years old in some of you. A lot has happened, and I remember when I first joined the games industry. Actually, when I first went to school at UCLA, my goal was to be an animation director for feature, 3D feature. I'm sorry, we didn't have, that was not 3D. Toy Story was not out. It was for animation films. Disney was my inspiration. But I was very, very fortunate for some very interesting events to happen that kind of gave me a glimpse into something else that was happening. It was the games industry, and I joined as an intern at DreamWorks, and it was a joke actually, the quality of the animations or the art at that point. But there was something hidden that I could see that many people could not see. And that was I saw, this is what I saw. Most people thought that, okay, actually, okay. This is 1996. I could see something gigantic about to happen. Okay? And again, and the feature animation at that point to me was something like this. fact, I visited PDI because I was interviewed at PDI, and I visited it and I saw that it was saturated. I think I was wrong because a lot has happened since 1996, right? Games and movies have been getting better and better. Still, compared to games, a lot had happened, and the big achievements had already been made. But this is the reason why I strongly felt that there was something up, and PS2 had not even been out at that point. A lot has happened, and it really has validated my my experience in the field. So let me give a general brief history of the games industry as seen through my eyes. You can always read about it in the books and so forth, but this is just from a professional standpoint. The main thing is that this is the most important thing. This is where we are right now, right? Broadband distribution has entirely changed the whole thing, and this is the reason why anyone would want to join the games industry, and that's the point of this whole slide. Till about 2 years ago, things were getting saturated again in the games industry because there were all these consoles games being made and a lot of cool games being made, but really there was no future. And the reason was because the people who were making games were really not making much money. The publishers were making all the money. That has changed with broadband distribution, and that's the main thing to keep in mind. Okay, so how much do you need to know about this? I need to ask that because I don't want to go too deep into this, but it depends on the interest of the group. This is this is about 15 slides, all right? Some of it is about the games industry in general. The second is about how to break into the games industry, and the third is, I don't think this is the third one. It's really these two, right? If at any given point you have any questions, just raise your hand, because you can hold up all the questions for later, or you can just interrupt for that particular thing. Because it's fine. Games industry is a place right now where we are in a transition. 3 years ago, it was a place. 4 years ago, it was a place where the sky was the limit and everything's happening. You know, you get into the games industry, it's get amazing. You have an amazing role and an outlet for your creativity, and incredible games are being made. Production budgets are just going like 30, 40, 50, 60 $million and all that. All that has changed in the past couple of years. I'm not saying that it has stopped. I'm saying that things have reached a point where we are just evaluating what's going on, where's the money going, and where the money is going is that the teams are getting have been getting extremely expensive. The games that I have worked on, here's a general picture. The first game I worked on had a production budget of about $15 million, and this was very expensive. That's because it was done at DreamWorks and it was called The Lost World. And we thought that was expensive. But then the next one was $20 million. And since then I have worked on, every single game I worked on, it kept increasing about 10 million. And so the last game, Call of Duty, the first one, was made for about $25 million. This is just production. Things that is paid for the team and the people, not marketing. Because marketing is another of that same amount. Because that's how it works out. And hence, you reach a point where it is so expensive, what happens is only the top 3% of games made actually make money. And actually there's another graph for that. And it's basically, I think it's something like, very good. So actually it's something like this. So there is these guys that, things are very dangerous for this group. Okay? And in this area, it's not too bad because their production budget was low anyway. So they are fine. So I'll give you a picture of where these areas are, and that's the purpose again of this presentation. Okay? So the world is not all about just one kind of games like Call of Duty or Halo, etc. That's just one section of the industry. And there's a good chance that most of you know this by instinct or by research or by awareness. Okay. And this is what has been happening in the last 4 years. Any new company that comes up gets eaten up by a publisher. And the reason is the publisher is trying to, well, normally the way it works is the publisher makes a deal with the companies to make a game for them, right? But then when they found, like in our previous slide, that wow, these companies are really expensive, what they did is to cut costs, they just thought, and to not have to share the profits, they would just eat them up. And hence Activision has a lot of studios right now, whereas 4 years later, before they did not. Okay. So this is how it is, and these two are like the big leaders of this.
Was it an NDA merger, or was that one?
No, that was a merger. Yeah, that was a merger. Okay, so what has happened in the last couple of years, as you may know, is the casual games. The casual games have gone up because, well, they're not that expensive, and the teams are much smaller, and the risks are a lot lesser, and it's a good change of pace for people who have worked in really, really expensive games. So you don't recognize many of them, and obviously all the new like we on its own has changed the industry by allowing the concept that you can actually have a console and a casual game and still be cool, basically. So where the jobs are. This was the only reason where, for a few years ago, this is the only place where people would, the game studios was the only place that you want to apply, or you were even aware of such a thing. It has changed, and right now there is, I just came off a conference, I'm not talking about E3, I'm talking about a virtual online world conference. And it's staggering how many small studios have started up. Is that a theater behind?
Another classroom.
It's amazing how many studios have started up, and all their focus is to make really small, creative, and innovative games, which is a completely different thing from these two guys, in that these guys are only focusing on iterative stuff. Like they'll be called maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, just like Madden, went through like 1,000 of them. And things at these two areas are creatively less, and in these areas it's more vibrant. This is something to keep in mind when you go out looking for jobs, because you actually have a lot more areas to look at. It's not just these two, and you think that these are the ones that are always in the public consciousness, but in my opinion, as long as you are working on something that is very creative, that's where you want to be. This actually is a small segue into my own personal journey. I worked like 10 years in the traditional games industry, and I realized that people were getting more and more afraid to make cooler and cooler games. You know, and you see that even with Hollywood, right? Because who makes the really interesting films? It's always the Indians, right? Or foreign films, the ones that manage to come in and they find an audience. It's always about that. So so you need a formula of how you want to craft your career, and it's something that is very unique to everybody, you know. And but there are some general principles. Actually, I'm not going to go into that, but I'm just saying that it's something for you to develop on your own. Because when I finished my school, I had to figure out what existed purely through my own direct impact with people, you know, or the companies that I interviewed. There was no one to give a general picture of, here's the landscape of the whole thing, you know. So if you have a picture of the landscape, it really allows you to craft a formula of your own career in very personal terms. And as long as you're willing to be flexible within that formula, and while having general direction of where it is, you'll create a fantastic career. Because ultimately, your career is only dictated by two things: is the actions that you put and the circumstances that are around you at that time. You know, and half of that is totally under your control. My company, by the way, is creating. It's called Deep Blue Worlds, and it's formed to create a virtual online world for kids in the age group of 5 to 12 that is inspirational and educational. And it is something that I don't expect you guys to have kids at this point, but you'd see that after a while you want meaning in what you do, not just coolness. Yeah, and there are a lot of people out there who, from these companies, by the way, that I'm slowly recruiting because of that need. And the reason I'm able to do that is because this field has broadened to accommodate all that. So the games industry has actually, I'd say, has matured to the point where there is a lot of scope. 10 years ago, my experience was this: the games industry was all about just one set of thinking, which is shoot 'em up. Destruction. And in fact, we were continuously in every team meeting. The basic keywords we use were basically this, like, how can you blow it up? Like, how can you maim more faster? I'm telling you, if someone had taken a picture of me telling all that, I would be in the FBI files or something. Seriously. Like in fact, to make one of our games, right, we had to send like 3 photographers to New York to take pictures of the landmarks. I chose not to go. And no, because those guys were sent not just to New York, but New York and London, to the Parliament building of London. Wow. Yes. In fact, Interestingly, we found that half of those guys kind of gravitated towards Amsterdam and just hung out there for a while. The reels that came out of Europe didn't have much. But we actually also sent, in that same group, we sent some people to Russia as well. So this is with Spark. So we sent people to New York, London, and Russia. But the reason I say that is, the reason was so we could take pictures of the buildings, in its pristine state before they were blown up. Yeah. So I'm very glad to say that things have matured to the point where I feel really very good about the industry, and that you can have very good and meaningful careers. And I look at you and I think that you guys are very young. 10 years into this, you actually have the experience of 10 years worth of body of work. And just imagine how much more subtler and meaningful and mature the industry would be then. That's what I'm feeling. And Deep Blue would be one of that. Yeah, you may not be able to see this. I added one more, iPhone developers. That's another surprise thing, right? No one knew that. These are the jobs. These are the big classifications, and I'm sure you're aware of all this, but I thought it's my duty to put it up. I'll also point out like what people evolve into from these slots. So I think I may have missed out a couple, but that's because they kind of fall into some other categories, like effects, for instance. Generally, and it's not the case in all studios, but effects are generally under this. And is there anything you see missing? I'll gladly put it up somewhere. Game tester? Oh, it's actually there. No, the game tester is actually, even though it's in the bottom of the list, in this chart, it's actually one of the most powerful group. They are the ones that dictate the games very, very shortly. It's very crazy. It's like the people who yes, are also, in my experience, they are also the most. They actually breezed through the school, just walked through school basically. They came out and started a job as a game tester. And a couple of years later, they are the designers. So this also, game testing is a very, very important function. Have anyone of you applied for as a tester or something? Is there any keen interest in that from that area?
We won't let them be testers.
What's that?
I won't let them be testers.
Okay, good. Yeah. The reason why he says that is a staggering fact. Game testers are generally not educated in all of that, but they also get to be the most important person in this whole equation. So it's a paradox, but it's a reality. So there's no fighting it. But there's a very important thing here. The testers within about a year become one of the junior designers. Okay, and a couple more years later they become a senior designer. They're based on the skill and all that. And very soon they're designing the games. And hence you have mayhem and maiming and all that.
It's a happy circle.
Yes, so all these guys here that actually need an enormous amount of skill and education and money spent, right? They are basically creating the world's design by the designers.
Is it because the testers are closest to the end user, they're
Yes.
closest to the player?
Yeah, it's like, if you want to be a producer, you start off as a PA. It's a paradox. You think that the producer has to be the most educated with the whole process. But they will be though, that's the best part. They will be. The process will train them. If they're good, and hence you have really good producers, and hence you have great designers. I'm not telling anything bad about one or the other. I'm just saying the paradox is shocking, But it may take like 4, 5, 6 years before you realize what's going on. So I'm just giving you a very good head start. But to answer the question, the testers are the guys that test the game and tell the designers the flaws in the game so that the designers can correct it. So over the period of a couple of years, they are so good at the game and the process of how the game is finally put together, because these guys are very, very crucial at the very end of the game and the game production. that they inform designers and producers about the game, you know. So, so they are the best candidates to be designers. Now, the reason I point this out so much is this: there is a good chance that if you are actually interested to be to want to design games, you should keep your eyes and ears out for opportunities to get into that career. As an animator or as a background artist particularly, and character model as well, you are actually naturally gifted to be a designer. But you would never know it until 6-7 years have passed. And you are weighed down by your resume that says you are all but just doing one specific thing. Hence I'm giving you a head start. Now this is important only for those of you who want to, if you feel like, if you want to be in games, if you feel like, oh, I want to go into games to design games. Well, define design. If you mean designing the whole landscape of the game, right? It's a large task, right? So, but there are two ways to go about it. One is designing the art of the game. Earlier, Santosh gave me showed me the reel of you guys, and I was very impressed. Yes, so it seems to me that you there is a general, like I would predict that most of you would become art directors given that reel, and so that's the other way of going about it. You are designing the world. That's cool. These designers are the guys that actually design the gameplay of it. And that's the difference. So designers go on to become, imagining all these guys are juniors, right? Designers go on to become lead designers / creative directors of the game. Animators go on to become animation directors and producers if necessary, because like some of my colleagues have become producers. Character modelists and riggers go on to merge into the backgrounds department. I'm talking about fast forward a few years, and they can end up being art directors. No, I'm sorry. They would most likely want to be very into character design, and really that is a specialty that is very expansive and very slightly different from the skills necessary from pure background designs. So it's like the lead character artist. Background artists go on to, and the furthest out, become art directors, or can become art directors. Engineers go on to become lead programmers. Sometimes they become development directors and producers. Development directors are guys that are very good at knowing how all the parts come together. Sound team, that's a specialty in itself, and sound directors basically. Have you seen this show called, or have you heard of this show called Live, Video Games Live? That's like the ultimate something is under it, in my opinion. If you know what it is. It is basically a big show which is all about game music. I attended it like a couple of weeks ago and Greek Theater in LA. It was amazing. And it's basically two game directors who compiled music from the best products and made a big like a Blue Man Group style show out of it. It was amazing. Testers, they go on to become these guys. And production team, I forgot, they generally start off as being associate producers or PAs. They become producers, and then very soon they're running the show. So that's that. Any questions about this? This you may be very aware of, but I just put it up there. These are generally the places where that really give a good picture of the game job. opportunities. And I'm telling you, there is no recession in the games industry. I can tell you very clearly.
It's entertainment.
What's that?
It's entertainment.
Yes, it's entertainment. About 6 months ago, I actually thought there might be a recession, but I see now that that's not the case at all. Like all the sites are just continuously one animators, one background artist, one character designers, especially junior guys, because of the cost, you know. Because the schools these days, like this one, you guys are producing really good, high quality work, and so if a student comes out of a school like this, the cost of keeping the student is much lesser, because there's a lot more energy for you guys, and you'll be willing to work for pizza. Pizza's not good enough?
Beer.
Good beer? Yes.
Oh, man. If there's beer, I'll leave it.
Okay, how to get in? And, well, do you know what that sign means? No, why do you think I put that up?
Yeah, that's knowledge.
What?
Well, it's about that's knowledge, and you should always be able to convey an idea by drawing constantly, even if you're.
You're way too smart for me, Anna.
Filling out a resume and paperwork, you jackass.
I like drawing. Leave me alone.
No, it's because they generally ask for tests. There's a test. There might be a test involved. It's not necessarily the case for kids coming out of school, because your real shows. But generally, if it is like a junior guy but not really coming out of school, they'll think, okay, well, let me see exactly what he's done recently. And for that, they may not have a reel for that, because you don't really put in your reel things that is part of the studio work all the time, not until the game is published. So therefore, the test comes in. But still, I'm sure your teachers, professors might have told you already. That's something to keep in mind. And it's more for animation-related jobs than for backgrounds and character rigging or modeling, because I think those are more, especially for you guys, much more clear on the reel. But still, the reel is really, really the king. The only reason why the reel really should not, honestly, this is my personal philosophy. The reason you are here is not to make a reel. The reason you are here is to develop your skills. But your reel should be a bucket that captures the best of it. The biggest mistake people make is think that you are here to make a reel. Because you can really do that. You don't need to spend all this money to make a reel. But imagine, but imagine what you're losing. You're losing the camaraderie, the education, and the inspiration and the motivation. So the reel is just the best 10% of your, should be 10% of your work. In fact, I'll give you an idea about this. I actually talked to somebody a long time ago who said that I just need a reel, and I'm going to work like the next 3 months and just make a reel. Then I could imagine, I didn't tell him that, but that's actually the worst way to go about things, because your reel should be the reflection of like a couple years of your work, of your life, or a year's worth of your life. The best part of it. And you have the right now. That's the space you are in. So you just make sure that the reel reflects that lifestyle. The workplace.
Looks about right.
Yes, it's yeah. This is the funeral. I used to not drink coffee. and this is a true fact. I used to only drink beer. Coffee is more important, actually better than beer in my opinion. Because, you know. And these are, by the way, these are not staged. These are actual pictures that were taken while in production. This illustration actually I made for an article I wrote in a newspaper a couple of years ago. But I went about like this. This is a true picture.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do this at school too, right?
We know this.
Yeah.
We try.
They have.
Silly
What's that?
I got the coffee for you.
I see. She got that now?
I got his start on that.
Awesome. This is actually this person, he's a colleague of mine. He was at UCLA as a senior. He's the person who turned me on the coffee. It's interesting, it just occurred to me. Let's see. Any questions? how to make the best coffee? Okay, this is the point about this. There are two things. There are two things that you'll realize in the workplace. One is the place itself. The second is the nature of the people and how it impacts you. How many of you have actually visited a game studio? Good. 10%, 5%. Good. Okay. But how about like any other studios?
Animation studios.
Animation studios?
Commercials, special effects.
Okay. Yeah, so you're really, really lucky that you're being geared up for a career where you don't have to wear a tie and, you know, it's, you know, it's an important thing because it actually makes up for the hard work. It is an enormous amount of work. This is, you know, I don't think it's news to you, but people work really, really hard in the games industry. Or in any industry, but the difference is in other industries you get paid for it. In the games industry, you may not get paid for it. But fortunately, you're really the lucky ones because we are at a transition time where that is being evaluated. See, 4 years ago, I actually got a check that was so substantial, it actually was, the reason was Electronic Arts freaked out because they actually made me work in this period, and me and my colleagues, for like incalculable amount of hours, okay? And just because, you know, it was all about, it's a company thing, you know, you're part of the company, you're making Medal of Honor, you know, you guys started the whole thing, we should complete it, blah, blah, blah. But they freaked out because there was a gigantic issue that one lady, one of the wives of one of our colleagues, do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, good. So she basically wrote an email just online. Yes, yeah, have you seen my husband or something like that? Her name then became EA's spouse. And she single-handedly freaked out the entire organization that they just gathered, okay, who are these guys who worked in that period and pay them? And so I had left Spark before that entire range, but some of my colleagues actually decided not to work for a couple of years. Yeah. No, because this gives you an idea of, and the funny thing is that was fair. I'm saying it was fair. It gives you an idea of how much you can expect to work. But the reason I say you're very lucky is that this is a transition period in that that's being evaluated, especially because of EA spouse. And many studios, including Spark, actually pay overtime. This was unthinkable 2 years ago, because I personally did not know where that money would come from to pay people overtime, because I'm thinking, games take a lot of time to make. You know, if you pay everybody all the time, how would you make it? I realized that with money comes responsibility. Because people are forced to, like the producer guys, are forced to handle the money. I'm sorry, they are the guys that pay. They now take extreme care in designing very carefully the game so that they don't have to go and pay people extra unless they absolutely need to. So it actually brought a level of maturity to the industry that is amazing.
Fear too.
Fear and responsibility. I'm telling you, you're actually very lucky because of that. When I wrote this article, it was and the article's theme was basically that we run on coffee, be happy about it. But I'm very happy to say that I look at this and I'm almost laughing now because it has changed a bit, quite a bit actually. So consider yourself really lucky. It's amazing. And the second thing is the people. The people that I'll give you a really strong head start. This is something that is the best advice that I thought I got, but it took me a bunch of years to really understand it. The people that's sitting right now around you, right? You won't believe it. They will actually most likely be working with you for the next 15 years. It's in some levels. Damn it. See, this guy, this is my senior by 1 year. Okay? That guy there is like my professor's best student. And my professor recommended him to me about 8 years ago. Okay. And then if this picture were expanded out, you'd see about 8 different people. And all of them, or most of them, came from that era. And actually beyond. I actually was not, I was not even in the United States, but from UCLA. But the reason I say that is this, these relationships are really golden. Probably will make or break your career, or your outlook of your career. So those hugs you give, you know, these relationships you nurture is actually, for better or worse, you will probably be interacting with this group more than your spouse. That's a staggering truth. And so,
Spend more time with my kids.
if you have actually the other side of that is, in case you have been thinking that you're all about your craft, right? I say that you're not all about your craft at all. Okay, that's cool. You can be all about the craft, but you should also take the extra time to develop the relationships nearby, and you keep that as a lifelong thing. And going into your jobs, make that a theme of your life, and you will never be out of work, and you will never be out of labor. Right? Like today, to this day, like I'm doing my own thing. I'm starting my own company. Right? I have all this huge infrastructure, and I don't think I'm the most friendly person. Believe me, trust me. I've had moments, but I actually rely on this social network, non-digital social network that I've been unconsciously building up. And it's amazing how much power that gives you. Like my partners, the people I hire, the people I don't hire, it's all based on the people I know. So how to thrive is basically two things. You are really the product of in the work atmosphere. The attitude you have to the work, and okay, actually the first one is pretty clear, right? The attitude.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone here has any bad attitude, at least I can see it nicely. No. But the second one is very important. It's a thing that I wish someone had told me in stronger terms. But it generally takes a long time to figure it out. And that generally what I see, when you are a student, you're continuously developing yourself. But there's a purpose. You're thinking you're doing all that to get a job. And that's an unfortunate flaw, because when you do get a job, you drop all those habits of developing. And hence, those habits. Another graph. Very visual, right?
You got a whole section over there.
Is there? Oh,
Yeah.
great. Oh, great. Generally you'd find that, when you're starting off in school, you're kind of struggling a bit, and then you just have this huge creative burst of things that you're learning and acquiring. You feel so proud and thrilled about all these things you're learning, and then you get a job. But I know people who actually, though they don't go as like that, they actually still do that. And that's good. This is not good. This means no job at some point. Because your salaries are most likely going to be actually zero, negative, right? Negative. And then,
Thank you.
yeah, huge debt.
Lower.
Somewhere good.
If you actually touch the wall, no.
Yes. It goes like that. But then this point is where you're fired.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you're not as worth as much as you're being paid.
Yeah. You should always be producing more than what you're being paid. It's a fact. Give more than you receive. You'll actually, the people who are looking at your salary will be happy to keep you because you're more valuable. But this is very important. You need to be on this track. This track means that even when you get a job, you're not stagnating. You're basically you should be part of many activities on a weekly basis, if you can, or monthly basis to develop your craft. And that's that. Any questions about that?
Not so much a question, but for you guys to know Ray, that's what he's been doing. He stays on game artisans and he draws. You got a job drawing and then he keeps on drawing. It's the same stuff I have to do for you guys every day. That's me up there in the top part. Every quarter I gotta learn new stuff to teach you guys to keep going. So every quarter I learn new stuff, new stuff, new stuff. And that's the harder. You guys have to do that because once you guys get to the industry, you guys just hit cruise control. Like, oh, I got a job, I have money, bills are paid, and that's where you get in trouble. Because when the studio lays you off or you lose your job, then you don't have any skills because your old skills are old. You don't have the new skills. Like learning ZBrush and Mudbox and all that stuff.
Some steam are shaking in their sneakers too.
Can we put politics up there too?
Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Actually,
Actually,
politics.
Yeah, or
Because if you kiss ass, you go really far. If you like to rock the boat, then
yes.
you kind of stay stagnant. You take that lower line towards the firing
Yes.
part.
Actually, that's a good point. Politics is actually, especially because this group is going to be entrenched for a while, right? You can expect politics to develop, but that's why the attitude is so important. Because the way I like to see it, or the way I'd like to say I'm practicing, it's not necessarily true. But theoretically, what I'm practicing is that even though I'm very close to the people that I work with, I know that it's still it's a professional attitude, and that professional attitude is what keeps them sane. You see, the moment you think their family is over, they are not family. Seriously, they are not family. They are not family so much it'll make your head spin. It's because it's not about, because family is not about money. Okay, these guys will demand value for the money that they put, or your peers will hold you accountable. Hopefully your family is not like that. But there's a big, but that, it's very important to know that your professional attitude is what keeps the boat cool. You know, so it's something to practice and develop. And actually, about the second point, there are lots of opportunities, especially in the LA area. I'm not exactly sure about the San Bernardino area, but there are lots of what's that? Local animation groups.
I see AWN,
Yes.
or ACIFA, and
SIGGRAPH.
Yes. Yeah.
and IGDA.
Yes.